Hello and welcome to another episode of Context. I'm Dilek Tuna. Today we'll discuss the formal approval of Israel's Security Cabinet of an expanded military operation in Gaza, with military forces now pushing deeper into the southern areas of the Strip. This follows months of fighting in the north, where significant parts of Hamas infrastructure have reportedly been dismantled. But the new strategy appears to go beyond neutralization of militants. It includes the proposed relocation of civilians from the north to the south and Israeli control over aid distribution, prompting widespread warnings from humanitarian agencies and the United Nations. Critics argue this could mark the beginning of a full reoccupation of Gaza. The operation, reportedly named Gideons Chariots, is designed to prevent Hamas from regrouping. But at what cost? As food, water and medical supplies run dangerously low, the region is bracing for further destabilization. Hostage diplomacy remains a pressure point. Now, would a full release alter Israel's course, or is the path set? And how far will Israel go militarily or territorially? With Egypt, Iran and Turkey signalling growing alarm, the regional stakes are rising. So today on Context, we ask, is this a military imperative, a political gamble, or the prelude to long-term occupation? And joining me today for further analysis is intelligence and security expert and head of Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs, Mr. Yossi Kupawasa from Israel, and political analyst Enrique Cosero joining us from Madrid, a political analyst. A warm welcome to you both. Thanks for joining us on the program today. So my first question is to you. Is Israel now moving toward a de facto control of Gaza, or is this still a containment operation against Hamas?
It's not a containment operation. It's an operation that is based on two parallel goals that have to be reached. One is the release of the hostages, and there's a hope that with the growing pressure on Hamas will eventually show readiness to move towards some hostage deal that is satisfactory also from the Israeli point of view, namely releasing part of the hostages without getting in return an Israeli commitment to end the war. And at the same time, we have to we remain committed to destroying Hamas military capabilities and removing it from power in the Gaza Strip. And this probably cannot be achieved unless they see that Israel is ready to go all the way and take over the entire territory of Gaza. So this is what we are trying to accomplish simultaneously. And if the Hamas is going to be ready to accept the first goal, then there's going to be a cessation of activities for at least a temporary period of time.
Yossi, would the release of all hostages be enough to alter the military's current trajectory?
For sure, if we are going to see the release of all of the hostages, and this is going to be probably part of a deal that would guarantee Hamas some sort of ceasefire for a certain period of time. And we'll see some progress, and we really hope that this is going to be able to materialize. The problem is that Hamas doesn't want a deal like that, and they refuse to accept any deal that means that after a certain ceasefire, the hostilities will resume until they are losing the control of Gaza. They want to remain the power in Gaza. They are showing no readiness to disarm themselves, and Israel cannot accept a situation in Gaza in which we are going to be facing another 7th of October in the future. So that's where the crack of the disagreement is, and that's why I don't think that we are just about to see a full hostage deal in which all the hostages are released.
Okay, Enrique, how should Hamas interpret and respond to this current shift, militarily or diplomatically?
Von Clausewitz used to have a very famous quote, which is "War is continuing the politics by other means." But I think that is the most famous quote by von Clausewitz. But the most practical one is, if you want to deal peace, you have to conquer territory. And I think this is all about. This movement probably is going to give Israel lots active issues in order to negotiate what's going to happen with Gaza and what's going to happen with Hamas, obviously. And we have to watch the next Donald Trump's visit to Israel in order to conclude if there is going to be any further movement or the negotiations going to start right after that visit. So for Hamas right now, we know that their forces are so low, and it's. I think the only thing they can do right now is just negotiate, because one of the points that for me are more interesting on this new announcement is that the movement is going to be in Gaza. It's not going to be on the West Bank. This is a question only to Israel against Hamas, and they are displacing people to the south, as you said in the beginning, because this is a question only for an occupation in order to, much as I understand, and with the conflict and with Hamas. So, as I said before, and just keeping in mind that von Clausewitz quote, "If you want to deal, you have to conquer." And I think this is right now just only the threat. It's a very good beginning for Israel in order to negotiate.
Okay, Yossi, the term Gideons Chariots has emerged. What does it symbolize politically within Israel?
Well, it's, Gideon was one of our leaders in the biblical time, and that means that it's going to be involving, the chariot is our main battle tank, so Merkava. So that's what we apply by using this name. And Gideon was very creative in his way of fighting, and based his fighting on the spirit of the soldiers that he was leading. Only the most capable soldiers and committed soldiers who fought for Gideon. So if you go back to the story in the Bible, you understand why we chose this name. But it's just a symbolic issue. The real thing is that it's going to be a wide-scale operation. Once it is launched, it's not going to be launched immediately. We are still having a couple of days of preparation that can be used in order to convince Hamas to avoid the military operation by accepting a deal right now before the operation starts. And these are the important things about this operation, not necessarily the name.
Okay, Enrique, with Israel now directly overseeing aid, how is the humanitarian space being compromised?
As far as I understand, right now Israel is relying all the humanitarian aid to private corporations, and the UN is protesting against this. Again, we're in a worse scenario, which means that whatever right now Israel is gonna determine in order to make its advance or accomplish the mission. There are very few. The margin is so small in order to operate that it's just a part, and I think it's just a part of another negotiation that has to take place for humanitarian aid. I don't think really that Israel wants to appear in front of the world non-humanitarian country. And probably this is going to have another talks and another conversations in order to provide it as much as the operation advances or starts, and yes. See for how long this is going to take. We have to remember that at the beginning of the war, we thought that this war is only going to have a duration for probably weeks, maybe months, but we didn't expect a moment that this war was this longer. So right now, I think the humanitarian aid is a question that has to be discussed, and it's going to be discussed. I'm sure of that.
Okay, Yossi, I'll ask you in relation to Enrique's answer there. Firstly, if Israeli forces do occupy Gaza, how would they manage governance and day-to-day control, and particularly in terms of the much-needed aid by the Palestinians inside the Gaza Strip?
Well, we come up with a new plan of how to distribute the aid and to make sure that the aid is distributed by other elements but Hamas. Hamas is not involved in distributing the aid, because we know that when Hamas controls the distribution of aid, then they take much of it to themselves and then buy and then sell it in very high prices. So that's the idea. We are going to ask the population to leave the areas where the fighting takes place and move to the south, as was mentioned before. And there the distribution of aid is going to be carried out by international bodies and private companies that are going to work together with the Israeli Defense Forces and be charged by the Israeli Defense Forces with the distribution of the aid. That's the plan for the aid distribution. For the rest of the issues, if we end up eventually controlling the Gaza Strip, I'm not sure it's going to happen, but if this is going to happen eventually, and there's a high probability that it is going to happen, then we shall have to deal with all the civilian issues, and we shall have to establish civilian administration that would take care of all of these elements, while simultaneously taking care of the security issues, because we expect that if once this happens, there's still going to be terror attacks against our soldiers, and we have to deal with that too, and maybe also terror attacks against our territory, like with rockets and other stuff. So we shall have to have two parallel efforts: one, fighting the terrorism, and secondly, taking care of the population and taking care of the civil administration of the territory. This all is going to be some temporary effort, because we really hope that at some point we shall be able to deliver the responsibility for the civilian issues to either an international consortium that will be responsible for that, or to the Palestinians themselves that would, once they are convinced that Hamas is not coming back, may show readiness to govern themselves. And if we see that they are ready to do that, we shall be able to deliver responsibility to them.
Okay. Enrique, could we see growing dissent inside Gaza, not only toward Israel, but also against Hamas's hold?
Well, that's a tough one, because as Philip Tellock used to say, making a prediction is just like having a monkey throwing darts. So I really don't know. This is, as I said before, these depends on very different variables. One of those is time, and we seen that this conflict that's putting a lot of public opinion completely aligned with one side or the other. So it's gonna be it's really tough to make a prediction about this. First of all, we have to see what's gonna happen, because as I said, two questions ago, Donald Trump's visit is gonna be determined for a solution and for how the things are gonna evolve into the conflict. Maybe it's not there is not going to be any further advancement. Maybe there is not going to be any further movement. Maybe this is going to favor some kind of new talks in order to reach peace. It's tough. It's a very tough about making any kind of prediction right now.
Okay, as far as Donald Trump's visit goes, he made an announcement just recently that we need to, in his words, we need to get food to the Palestinians. Do you think that there will be something that will be arranged in the short term to get some much needed aid to the Palestinians based on his comments?
If you ask me, it's for me. It's, yes.
Yes, go ahead. You can answer. It was for Enrique, but that's okay.
Yes, I think that's in the cards. There's an effort to build this capability to provide the population with needed assistance without going through Hamas. Because what President Trump said was that the problem for which the aid is not reaching the population is Hamas, and that's why we are trying to develop some system that would allow the aid to reach the population without going through Hamas, and that's exactly the point in this new operation.
Okay, Yossi, this question is for you as well. What's Israel's calculation regarding Egypt or Iran potentially escalating?
Well, there's no escalation with Egypt. We do not agree on everything with Egypt, but there's no escalation with Egypt. There's some tension, but not an escalation. And I think what we are trying to coordinate with the Egyptians, everything that we do in the areas near their border between Egypt itself and the Gaza Strip. They are not always very fond of what we are doing, but at least they know what we are doing and they are aware of it. And there's no intention to raise tensions with them. With Iran, it's a different story. With Iran, their capability to influence the situation in the Gaza Strip is very limited these days. And we have a totally different problem with them, is that they are standing behind the Houthis that keep launching rockets and missiles towards us, and they were even able to hit our international airport, or near the international airport in near Tel Aviv, in the Ben Gurion airport. And we are now in the stage of trying to make them realize that this kind of policy is very costly. And we just carried out a big attack in the port of Hodeidah in Yemen that is controlled by the Houthis yesterday. And if necessary, we shall continue doing that. And the question is whether the Iranians that stand behind them also have to suffer. And both President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu alluded to the fact that you probably cannot stop the Houthis from launching missiles towards Israel and disturbing the free maritime activity in the Gulf of Suez and the Red Sea, unless you do something about the Iranian patterns of the Houthis. And this is still being discussed by, I guess, both the Americans and the Israelis, what exactly needs to be done about the Iranians in order to convince them to tell the Houthis to stop their attacks.
Okay, Enrique, my last question to you now. What role can regional players realistically play if occupation becomes formalized?
I'm going to play cynicism here, but I don't see any much concern or effort by the neighbors in the Gaza war during all this period, and that makes me completely, I don't know, skeptic about whatever they're gonna do. And if I bet on something, probably it's gonna be that they're gonna use Gaza as sort of excuse more than a real problem for them. I mean, I didn't see any much real involvement in here, and it's completely understandable, right? Because if the conflict escalates, it's going to affect not just an area; it's going to affect several countries, obviously. But as much as I've seen during this 2 years, more than 2 years period, one of the things that I see is Gaza has been for these countries more an excuse than a reality in the conflict. So let's see what's going to happen. But I want to keep that sort of skepticism in order to be prudent, really.
Okay, Enrique, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out to contribute to the program. And Yossi, also thank you to you for joining the program today and your contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the campaign in Gaza is no longer just a military confrontation. It's becoming a test of sovereignty, international law, and regional endurance. With consequences far beyond its borders, the choices made now could define the Middle East for years to come. I'm Dilek Tuna. This is Context.